Welcome everyone to this webinar. I'm very excited to be here with all of you today. We're going to learn so many things on planetary boundaries and how wetlands could be part of the solutions. I'm Vanessa, I'll be your co-host today. I'm here with Elia.
Yes, hi everybody, thanks for joining.
Here with me in the studio I have Valentine Piton, thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you.
I have also Jérémie Gentizon, thank you for coming here. And also have Hélène Tavel, thank you all three of you for coming. We have other experts also online. We have Sophie Swaton who are joining us in the Zoom call. Thank you for coming. Thank you. We also have Dr. Blaise Pascal Mihigo who's coming from Congo, so thank you. Let's get started. We're just going to show you a short animation that our crew made, and then we'll be back in the studio to talk a bit more in depth about these planetary boundaries.
Our planet is rapidly changing. The dramatic effects of these changes are all around us. What if there were a way to measure the world's health? To tell us how far we have gone? The 9 planetary boundaries define the limits for sustainability. Overstepping them means permanently damaging the environment, a serious threat to both nature and humans. These boundaries are freshwater use and circulation, ozone layer depletion, atmospheric aerosols, ocean acidification, chemical substance cycles, chemical pollution, deforestation, biodiversity loss, and climate change. We have already surpassed 6 of these boundaries. It is time to make a choice. There's still hope to shape a better planet for everyone. Let's engage together.
So without further ado, let us dive into these topics of these 9 planetary boundaries, what they are, what they mean, how far along are we, and what the solutions are. So we're going to get started with the 4 planetary boundaries that have been declared to have been overstepped in 2015. So I put them all on this little card, and I'm going to ask our expert to just pick one and kind of explain to us, kind of help us understand what it means. So maybe Valentine, you could start with the first one.
The planetary boundary of climate change is evaluated with the quantity of CO2 in the atmosphere. We have now 415 parts per million during a normal warming, a natural warming period. It not be exceed 300. It's clearly an anomaly. The consequences on the climate system, on the ecosystem, and human society too, obviously.
Thank you so much, Valentine. Jérémie, maybe you could tell us a bit about how it impacts Switzerland and the glaciers.
In Switzerland, the water coastal of Europe, the rise in temperature is higher than everywhere else. This is due to the so-called albedo effect. The ice and snow, which are white surface, reflect the sun's rays, and thus maintain a cold temperature at high altitude. Note that the ice is melting. It let just under the ice place to the rocks, which is a black surface, which cap the heat and make the melting more and more important. The average temperature in Switzerland has already risen by more than 2 degrees. As a guide, the danger with the rockfalls, the ice falls are increasing, and yeah, I see that.
So it's interesting you have kind of 2 points of view on the...
Yeah, I have those 2 points of view. Is really interesting, but also really sad.
Thank you all so much for this first boundaries. We're going to move on to the next one. Actually, Jérémie, pick one of the cards and talk to us a bit about the second boundary.
Also, I will talk to you about the deforestation. Forests play a crucial role in climate regulation. They shelter an exceptional biodiversity, produce oxygen, regulate the water cycle, protect soils, and constitute a key food resource for rural populations. In addition, forests are home to many biodiversity hotspots and play a major role in fixing the CO2. 40% of the Earth's carbon is stored in the vegetation and in the forest.
Right, thank you very much. I think we have another expert who are with us online from Congo, Dr. Blaise Pascal Mihigo. Could you maybe tell us a bit about how it impacts your country and maybe explain to us a bit also what it means?
Thank you very much for the floor. Yes, it's an honor for me to share with you some information regarding deforestation in the Ramsar seats of the Democratic Republic of Congo. Democratic Republic of Congo owns the second largest rainforest in the world called Congo Basin, and Democratic Republic of Congo has more than the half of the Congo Basin forest. In the DRC, we have 4 seats of Ramsar. First of all is the Virunga National Park, and then Mangrove National Park, Ngiri Tumba, Maindombe, Lufira Basin. So those are the 4 seats of Ramsar in DRC. And those seats represent more than 11 million of hectares. And among those 4 seats, Ngiri Tumba Maindombe is the biggest one, and owns very important peatlands. So when you compare, you go to the Congo Basin region, you compare 6 countries of the Congo Basin, we can see that the deforestation, the DRC, the Democratic Republic of Congo, it has the highest rate of deforestation. So in this slide, you can see the driver of deforestation. Those drivers are like slash and burn agriculture, artisanal logging, carbonization, mining, and fire. The deforestation in protected area, including the Ramsar seats, are very low. But there is a rise of the deforestation even in the protected area and in the other context, mining concession and forest concession. The impact of deforestation in the Ramsar seats, all the 4 Ramsar seats that I cited before has a common trait. Logging is among those common traits, but there are other existing traits. Those are also linked to logging. Mining has an impact. The exploitation of oil or gas could also have impact. So we need data, we need to produce data on driver of deforestation, on the environmental impact of the oil and gas drilling, which could endanger the protected area, endanger the Ramsar seats. We need also data on the efforts done by the government and other partners regarding the protection of the forests. The very last point are about the finance. We need finance to do the study on deforestation and the impact. We need also to awareness. Decision maker, they should know the importance of the protection of a protected area. We need also to stop the conflict, because now in DRC we have conflict in the east part of Congo, which endanger also some Ramsar seat like Virunga Park. So we need to find a solution, diplomatic, military solution, and the reestablishment of the authority of the state to control those parts and to manage it very well. Thank you for your patience and for your action. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Dr. Blaise Pascal Mihigo. That was very interesting. We might just move on to the next boundary. So maybe, Hélène, you could pick the next one and kind of explain to us what this means.
So I have a biodiversity loss. You can say there is 2 types of biodiversity. There is the terrestrial and the marine one. Biodiversity have ecological ecosystemic services. So it's helped to pollination. Also, it helped to protect us from virus and bacteria propagation. It purify and help to air and water quality, and also it contribute to the decomposition of organic matter. And the loss of biodiversity is mostly due to climate change, invasive species, and also pollutions, and, for example, deforestation for the loss of ecological niches.
Thank you so much, Hélène. So it is urgent to act now. So we're going to move to the last of the 4 boundaries that was the first theme. So the last one is chemical substance cycle, and I think Sophie is going to tell us a bit about what it means.
The modification of the cycles of nitrogen and phosphorus contained in the soil results, we can say, in particular from intensive agriculture and livestock farming, essentially. And these cycles are essential for the good condition of soil and water. And they are also important for our own health, because I just want to add, we've heard about biodiversity, and climate without biodiversity is a nonsense. We need to consider all this planet boundary altogether, and the aim is also our own ability to survive. So as human beings, we need to have a good condition for soil and water, just because for our own health, to food us, well, for the fish, for everything, all is linked. One last sentence maybe. While the limits had already been reached for nitrogen in 2009, it has now also been crossed for phosphorus. But I will add, maybe there is significant variations depending on the region.
Thank you so much, Sophie. That was very interesting to talk about this. And it's interesting that you talk about water and pollution, because the next topic that we're going to talk about are freshwater use and chemical pollution. So it's right in what you were just telling us about. So I think, Elia, maybe you have anything to add?
So first of all, we have the freshwater use and circulation planetary boundary has been passed this year. And most notably, the researchers working on this planetary boundaries found out that the green water, especially the water that is available to plants and also is important for agriculture and human use, is being depleted and is surpassed the boundary, which was initially seen as the normal values in the groundwaters and in precipitation and also in evaporation. Next off, we have chemical pollution, which is a current theme in the news as well. We hear every day about plastic pollution, microplastics, pesticides, pharmaceutical runoffs. And we are not really aware of the consequences because most of the things man produces end up in the environment and stay there. And so we don't have any idea about the long-term implications of such pollution.
Right, thank you so much, Elia. That was very clear, I think, explanation. Now on to the three last planetary boundaries that we haven't talked about. And those three are ozone layer depletion, atmospheric aerosol, and ocean acidification.
Yes, we're going to start off on a good note. We have the ozone layer depletion planetary boundary, which has been a very dramatic issue for a couple of decades, most notably because of the emission of ozone depleting gases. And after the banning and the restriction on these substances, we have seen a stable and constant increase in the ozone layer thickness. This causes also that the planet is more protected from very dangerous UV radiation. After that, we have the atmospheric aerosols, which are basically all small liquid and solid particles emitted into air, and that have potentially very hazardous consequences for both human health and nature. As for the chemical pollution, the consequences are not really known, and the data is still missing on these byproducts as well. And lastly, we have ocean acidification, when the atmosphere gets oversaturated with carbon dioxide and cannot hold anymore. This gets dissolved into water of our oceans and seas, and causes an imbalance in the composition of water, and this greatly damages especially shell and skeleton producing organisms such as corals and mussels. And this creates also imbalances in the environment, in the ecosystem.